I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. We are particularly honored in this hour to have Congressman Emanuel Cleaver II, an American public servant and elected official, a United Methodist pastor who's represented Missouri's 5th Congressional District in the U.S. House of Representatives since 2005. He was previously the mayor of Kansas City, Missouri from 1991 to 1999. The first Black person to serve in that role in the history of the United States. Congressman Cleaver, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
Well, thank you. It's good to be with you.
Congressman Cleaver, it's always a pleasure to have you here. I have watched with a kind of horror the President of the United States contact the governor of Texas, and like he did the governor of Georgia when he asked for 11,700 more votes, he asked for 5 votes out of Texas. That triggered the governor of California to then redraw and begin a movement to redraw the state of California. The governor of Illinois gave it consideration until a number of us pushed back because of the implications for the Voting Rights Act of 1965. But I woke up in horror one morning when I saw that the governor of Missouri was considering dismantling your congressional district. Congressman Cleaver, first and foremost, how are you holding up?
Well, I'm holding up quite well because what Donald Trump told Governor Kehoe of Missouri to do is extremely unpopular. The DCCC has conducted a poll for the entire state of Missouri on redistricting. And if I were on the other side of this issue, I would be afraid because over 70% of the people in the state, Black, white, brown, vegetarians, Twinkie truck drivers, everybody is opposed to this in huge numbers. Mm-hmm. And in fact, 46% of the people in the state said they would not vote for a person who pushed this redistricting program. And so the numbers in Missouri are almost as low as President Trump's numbers that came out earlier today. But the people the Republicans in Missouri were afraid to stand up to the president. I've never understood that, but they are doing what he said. So the measure passed both the House and the Senate, and awaiting now. The members of the House of the legislature are waiting for the signing of the bill by the governor. But what it has triggered is something that the state has never seen. We had people coming from all over the state packed into the state capitol when it was brought before 2 weeks ago. There were thousands, not hundreds, but thousands of people who had come in. And right now we have 2 lawsuits going, and a third is expected. And in addition to that we've launched a petition initiative to put this on the ballot.
Well, I certainly hope before the show is over that you give us your website, your campaign website, how we can be supportive of your efforts, not only to fight this legal battle, but also to raise the resources necessary to fight this legal battle, which at one level or another, Congressman, has absolutely nothing to do with Emanuel Cleaver, the Democrat, versus the Republican, the general election. When we talk about these legal battles over the Voting Rights Act, these are resources that you have to galvanize across the state and around the country to defend the Voting Rights Act of 1965. And therefore, if I live in Los Angeles or I live in Chicago or I live in New York, because there's no such thing as a local congressman, I have an interest in the 5th Congressional District of Missouri.
Absolutely. Because we are, at least as far as I know today, we are the United States of America, which means that there is an inseparable connection between all of us. And all of us need to be involved with what takes place anywhere in the United States, because they're going to be impacted some way or another. And the one thing I want to say here is that if Trump is successful in Missouri for only one seat, it's only one seat, mine, or the one I'm holding on behalf of the people, and he'll go anywhere that he thinks a governor will obey him. We also found out that there had been a recording sent to the people in Missouri, at least the legislature, the Republicans, saying, "My eyes are on you." And so it's almost like something out of Godfather. You know, he tells him what to do, and then he says, you know, if you don't do it, remember, I know somebody. I mean, essentially. And so we are now in Missouri trying to hold back the flood. We don't want this thing to go past Missouri before you know it even goes into California. If we can wipe them out in Missouri and spend them and force them to spend millions of dollars, then they may think twice about going to California, because Governor Gavin Newsom is going to have many more resources than we'll have in the state of Missouri.
I'm confident that that is true. And so we're going to do everything within our power to make your seat and to make this issue on behalf of the people of the state of Missouri and our country a central issue going forward, in large measure because it takes 218 members of Congress to get anything done. There's no such thing as a local congressman. Emanuel Cleaver's voice is extremely important to progressive politics, to liberation theology, and to all of the hope that we have fought for really since the inception of the Republic. Emanuel Cleaver is our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. He is the distinguished congressman of the 5th Congressional District of Missouri. He is on the verge of leading a major movement to preserve the Voting Rights Act of 1965. We cannot ignore Congressman Emanuel Cleaver at this hour. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You're listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. More with Congressman Emanuel Cleaver when we come forward. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. In this hour, our very special guest is none other than the distinguished gentleman from the 5th Congressional District of Missouri, Reverend Emanuel Cleaver, both a pastor and the former mayor of a great city within that state, but now, since at least 2005, has been serving people of this congressional district with great distinction. Reverend Cleaver, Congressman Cleaver, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson.
Thank you very much. It's good to be with you. It's good to see you.
It's great seeing you too. I look forward to spending our time with you this week at the Congressional Black Caucus. I am in town, and I'm looking forward to the very rich conversations we're going to have as we try to organize nationally to bring attention to our people about this. Emanuel Cleaver's fight is our fight. It's all of our fights from coast to coast. Your Honor, let me ask you this question. While we focus on the congressional districts and the Voting Rights Act of 1965, behind your district are also African American state representatives, state legislators, city council persons, and others whose future is also tied to the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Can you share that with our listeners, what that truly means in terms of Black representation?
Absolutely. It's one of those things is that if Spartacus falls, the whole nation falls. Every time the Trump administration is successful in throwing some of us out of office, it frightens more people who might not have the drive to fight back. And so I'm hoping that people around the country will understand we have to kill. This is the baby Dracula. We have to kill the baby Dracula in our infancy. But metaphorically, Dracula must be killed while he's a baby, and we got to have this strength that comes along every decade or so to fight back. Because and for the people around the country, let me just tell you, what you're seeing right now is a flashing warning sign. This is an early warning signal, not only to African Americans, will spread. It's just like some kind of disease that'll spread every time it's successful. We got to stop it in its infancy. We ought, our goal ought to be to make sure that Missouri is the last place it stops.
Congressman, what is your website? I'm gonna say that several times while we're on the show. Guess your website.
Well, if they could go to post office box at this point, post office box 411872. 411872, post office box, and zip code is 64141. Thank you.
Thank you, Congressman. Let me ask you this question. Is there, based on your experience, obviously you drew or had some say in that district in 2010 with the decennial census and then the reapportionment plan of 2012. You obviously had some say in the census of 2020 and the reapportionment plan of 2022. A number of young African Americans are being elected to Congress. Thank God. That's great for the numbers. But not many of them have had to sit through these decennial censuses, let alone a midterm redistricting effort, to protect the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Is it your sense? But they never lived through it. Obviously, you have, and obviously Congressman Cleo Fields has, and obviously Jim Clyburn and Benny Thompson have. I'm concerned that the next generation of people who are going to be asked to take a pencil to these state legislative bodies to make sure that historically desegregated communities get a voice. That there is a huge learning curve for the new community, the new crew.
No question about it. Look, I grew up in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Uh, Many of them are good and decent people and fight hard for Black people. They don't. They're not us. People have done such a good job in fighting and in some places, dethroning bigotry. And so we've made a nice pathway for many of them, and so they've never seen this. Terry Sewell, who I think is an amazing and extremely bright young person, she is from Selma, and she now is one of the attorneys in our caucus who pushes back with her schooling, I think, from Harvard. But one day we were talking, and she mentioned that she didn't even remember, in her lifetime what happened on the Edmund Pettus Bridge. And so she's seen it on television, but the reality is that she didn't see it. She didn't know what Selma was like before that, and that the voting rights bill is connected to what happened in Selma and Meridian, Mississippi, and Birmingham, Alabama, and many of the other places where people went and protested, and some were killed in order to allow African Americans to go to the polls, and what people experienced: beatings and killings and families hurting. This is not some kind of myth that comes on television. It was real in this country. My grandfather, Grandpa Reverend Albert Cleaver, was charged 15 cents to vote. 15 cents.
Tax.
He couldn't vote unless he paid 15 cents. So outraged that he would go out and 15 cents was hard to come by, but he'd go out and get it and pay it just to make them look at him vote and try to come up with some additional reasons. We don't have to do all of that, but we have to be right now vigilant, and we have to also give of our time and our money and our vocal support. I mean, everybody's going to play a role. Nobody can sit on the pew and watch. This is a game that requires all of the fans to become involved.
Congressman, let me just say this. In 1965, March 11th, my mother was very pregnant when Lee Jackson got killed in Marion, Alabama. My dad was a student at Chicago Theological Seminary, and he sent my mother to Greenville, South Carolina, because he wanted his firstborn son to be born in Greenville. That showed up at the second march from Selma to Montgomery, and he was so overwhelmed when he finally got to a phone booth and found out that his firstborn son, Jesse Jackson Jr., had been born, that he wanted to name me Selma. And that's just how an even more significant event in my life to which you were a part. On the 50th anniversary of Selma, I had been incarcerated at Maxwell Air Force Base in Montgomery, Alabama. And I watched Air Force One land, and I watched other Air Force planes land. I watched the Osprey helicopters take off and take the first family to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge, hoping that, of course, President Barack Obama might stop by the prison and set some of us free. But I was going to get back on the plane and take back off. I get this call, and they bring me to the warden's office, and I'm wondering, what does the warden want with my time, my attention? I hadn't done anything wrong. He opens open two large doors in his conference room. There are 24 members of Congress who were there for the march, who came to visit me in prison. And I shall never forget that it was Emanuel Cleaver who led us all in prayer when those members of Congress came to see me, because they were in town for the Selma to Montgomery 50th anniversary march. I want to thank you for that publicly, Mayor Cleaver. Appreciate your stewardship of the cloth, the gospel, and the hope that you brought to me over the course of my life. So thank you for that, Reverend Cleveland. So this call that you're saying for the Voting Rights Act isn't just about a congressional district. You're saying that the domino effect for state legislative houses across the country, where blacks do enjoy some speakerships, some presidents of the Senate, some committee chairs at the state legislative level, all of that could be devastated with the overturning of the Voting Rights Act of 1960.
Yes, and being overthrown or overturned, I guess is the legal term. Here's what can happen. We can begin to lose African American representation in all these legislative bodies, and you can see a retreat taking place from all of the things that we have been able to secure through our ability to vote and put people in and elect people into every realm of the government. We started from the presidency all the way down with African Americans. And I want people who can hear my voice to understand that we are able to go out and vote. Their whole somebodiness is designed to oppress African Americans. They don't think we're worthy of being able to make decisions about the way this government is going to run. And so what we've got to do is create a much higher resolve. My uncle, Reverend A.E. Cleaver from Fort Worth, Texas, he used to tell a story about the Napoleon. He loved Napoleon stories. Some of them he probably made up, probably maybe all of them. But anyway, he said
they
sounded good. He says Napoleon looks around and sitting on his horse, and the enemy outnumbers his army 2-1, and because he wanted to save the lives of his soldiers, he told the bugle boy, he said, "Blow retreat," and nothing came out of the horn. And the general said, "Son, blow the bugle." And he said, "General, I don't know how to blow the bugle. We've never had a retreat sound." He said, so Napoleon said, well, blow something, do something, play that horn. And he blows the horn. But he goes on, and what he plays is what the soldiers always hear before they hear the word charge. And so all of a sudden, the soldiers from France with Napoleon are charging the enemy, and they're outnumbered 2-1. Well, the enemy says, "Oh my goodness, they must have gotten reinforcement." So they start running. Charge. And that's what we've got to do. Charge. Don't quit. Don't start getting depressed. Charge. We can't lay down right now. Charge.
Wow. That's a viral moment right there. There's no doubt about it. Now, I don't know whether that story is actually true or not, but it sounds good enough to put up the fight that we need. You're saying that they were outnumbered, but it scared the hell out of the enemy. The enemy, which was outnumbering them 2-1, knew that they were coming and decided to retreat.
Yes.
Congressman, let me ask you this question. I know that I only have so much of your time, but these are difficult moments, and you're also a minister. Your faith is part of this. Is part of this process. Don't the road we've trod, bitter the chastening rod. This long journey that we've been on. We have about 2 minutes before we come forward. A word of hope.
Well, it's important for us to also understand that darkness is only in existence because there's light. We wouldn't even know what darkness was, but for the light. And we have light right now. And, except for a rare moment in Greenland and the Arctic, darkness doesn't last forever. And there's always going to be some light coming in. And we have made it more than any other group of people on this planet over and over again. The Middle Voyage, then chattel slavery, then segregation, Jim Crow, and Betty Lou Crow, and and we still made it. We still made it. So
Barry
what's
McCrow.
happened, and we're going to make it again. It's just we're just going out to get ready to do it again. Don't give up. Don't quit. Charge.
I'm with the congressman, the distinguished gentleman of the 5th Congressional District of the great state of Missouri. This is the Congressional Black Caucus annual event, and none other than Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, who's also a minister, has been our very special guest on the Jesse Jackson Jr. show. I'm honored to call him my friend. He's also a spiritual guide and mentor for the Congressional Black Caucus. His voice matters in Congress. We don't just get up and do policy and politics. We do a lot of praying,
Yes.
and a lot of those prayers are led by the Reverend Emanuel Cleaver. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. When we come forward, more on the Jesse Jackson Jr. show on the Congressional Black Caucus Weekend I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. It's Fat Meat Fridays on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show with the incomparable Gina Towns. She is the CEO of 519 Productions, the co-producer of a winning documentary on Hampton University, one of the wonders of the world. Gina, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. She is also our creator. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Jesse Jackson Jr. How are you?
Gina, it's been an amazing week here in Washington, D.C. on the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. We are here celebrating the 2025 annual legislative weekend of the Congressional Black Caucus. There is a lot of anxiety in the air, but before we get to that, on Monday, Ernest Krim and Reverend Dr. Teresa Horde Owens, an amazing conversation about hypocrisy. As you know, the Democratic leadership voted for the Charlie Kirk resolution, but the masses, if you will, the rank and file members of the Congressional Black Caucus and their leadership voted against honoring a man whose language, tone, and tonality was nothing short of vitriolic for Black people.
Yeah, absolutely. Reflecting on your conversation with both Ernest Krim in the first hour on Monday and with Reverend Owens, I mean, that probably was, they're all my favorite shows, of course, but that really hit home when we got to talk about character once again. And you know, there is just a place in to stand up, and that's everybody. I don't think that anybody gets to shrink back in this moment. I don't think anybody gets to do a Pontius Pilate moment where you just get to wash your hands of it and say, well, hey, that's somebody else's responsibility. We all have a responsibility in this moment.
Gina, I saw some of the tortured logic of the Democratic leader, Hakeem Jeffries, on Politics Nation with Reverend Al Sharpton. And he began the interview by asking this question. The Black Caucus, AOC, Yvette Clarke, they all over here. They all voted. But then at the same time, Mr. Leader, you joined the Democratic leadership, Hakeem Jeffries from New York, moving around the answer and kind of shucking and jiving. It's the way it came off. It just was inauthentic at a time when I think, Gina, on this question of character, people are asking for leadership to be authentic.
Absolutely. And not only the authenticity, because the authenticity that you speak of allows you to be the same way at home and see a different person. You know, a friend of mine used to always say, well, you know, people ask me about you. And I said, well, what did they ask? They said, well, she like that all the time. Yes, she's like that all the time. You're not going to see a different person emerge in a moment. And so who you are in these moments when you really have to stand up and say what it is and not give in to people pleasing, because sometimes, you know, we have to get over that in our lives because we want to be liked by people. That's part of human nature, is that we all want to be accepted. We want to be a part of the group and the community. But sometimes just in the moment, not only do you have to stay where you are in the moment that represents that history and where you will go going forward.
Behind the vote, I heard Jasmine Crockett say, even though she supported the Congressional Black Caucus and their dissent on these questions, behind the vote, Jasmine said that 2 of the 58 people were white. They were Caucasian, which means the Democratic leader actually provided significant cover to the Charlie Kirk resolution as an African-American man. And he is getting roasted on social media for providing them that cover. Gina, I don't know any other way to say it, but it was an inauthentic moment, less than a profile in courage for Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. It reminds me, and it harkens back to part of the conversation that I believe might have been with Reverend Owens or Ernest, in which we see in the book that John Allen, I think it's John Allen, has written, where
Fight.
where Kamala is told repeatedly every time it seems that she may want to step aside, she wants to address them. But as vice president, she is told that there's no daylight between us. Remember, no light between us, kid. And so there's almost that kind of patriarchy that we see in this instance. But it's great, as you said, to see people stand in their own moment. And even as you said with Congressman Fields, on, I believe that was on Tuesday, when you most of the time, or the minority leader, whichever one is up against the controversial issue for their side, will say, "Hey, I'll let you vote your conscience on this issue," and not really take a position.
So you brought up Kamala, and let's deal with that just for a moment. Even though her book just came out, I have not had the opportunity to read 107 Days, but we have had 2 books that have been written so far, and maybe even more about the final moments of the Biden administration. Her book, titled 107 Days, is already drawing the ire of the party as she details how unsupportive the party heads, the party leadership were with her candidacy. Gina?
Yes. I think that sometimes people just want to find fault with someone thinking into the future, but Vice President Harris certainly, did not have the support of everyone that needed to support her in the 107 days. And even before that, as vice president, I think whether you cared for Kamala or not, she certainly did not have the support that you see with other vice presidents throughout history, or even being given the roles and the opportunities to lead. And so, that's a part of grooming someone while they are in that role. I mean, that role is nothing to shake a stick at. But I will tell you that in this hour, whether you find fault about her not saying more in those 107 days or not, people will appreciate her honesty now. And so I do look forward to reading the book. I think it's going to be fascinating reading. She certainly has a lot of different experiences throughout her lifetime, being a graduate from Howard University, and the position that HBCUs find themselves in right now. She'll be able to speak to that in the book. She will be able to, hopefully, in the book, and I don't know if she did speak to, what's going on in Gaza, and then all of that as it reflected in her time as vice president and the brief run for presidency that she had.
As I've stated earlier, we are in Washington, D.C. for the Congressional Black Caucus weekend. A number of our colleagues have been on our program this week. They will also be on our program next week to share with us some of the concerns they have about the midterms, about what's taking place within their congressional districts, the existential threats to their congressional districts, which largely include the Supreme Court, the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and the way in which it's being applied. A number of our colleagues this week, Gina, came on the program, and they highlighted just how devastating the present challenges to the Voting Rights Act are. I know that when we come forward, we will have a longer conversation to discuss Congressman Cleo Field's contribution to our show this week, as well as Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, who woke up in the state of Missouri to a phone call from the President of the United States to the governor, encouraging the governor of the state of Missouri to draw the historic 5th Congressional District, which is represented by Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, hearkening unto the days when there were 0 blacks in Congress after first Reconstruction. I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns, and we're looking forward to further engagement when I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. Welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show on KBLA Talk 1580. This is Fat Meat Fridays with Gina Towns. Gina, welcome forward to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show.
And hello to you again, Jesse.
Gina is the executive producer of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show and the creator of our show. She is also a top 30 Billboard charted artist, songwriter, and producer, a government and community affairs consultant, and a women's ministry leader. Gina, we had a pretty amazing show that I think included some pretty amazing stories, including but not limited to Congressman Cleo Fields, who, like Congressman Emanuel Cleaver, also rang the bell on the significance of the Voting Rights Act and the direct attack that African Americans are receiving at every level of the political system.
Absolutely. I think there have been a couple of times this week, starting with last week, maybe starting with January, maybe starting last November, that, you know,
It's pretty crazy now.
you go and you get a pause, your breath stops for a second, you gasp for air. But I think it was earlier this week, on Tuesday, when Barbara Arnwine introduced us to a new song, and taken from the title of an old Clint Eastwood movie that said, what, Jesse?
Hang 'em high.
Hang 'em high.
A song that came out apparently inspired by 2 lynchings in Mississippi within the last 2 weeks.
Yeah. You know, I think in some ways, to be able to appeal to anyone's humanity, to think about children, to think about the elderly, and to just have hate as the moniker that runs across your mind, much like any of the monikers that run during our show here to give a message in addition to what's going on in our conversation, to be so far away from what is good and whole and decent. You don't have to like everybody. You don't have to like everything about everybody, but certainly the idea of us trying to live together, as Johnny Mack and you talk about, in a world house where everyone is privy to education and to a meal or 2 a day, where people's voice matters, where, yes, empathy matters, where sympathy matters, where we can rejoice with one another, and where love is the action that is not in love. You don't have to be in love with me. You don't even really have to like me, but you have to love me in a way that signals that we are truly a nation in God we trust.
Barbara, I was thinking about something Barbara said in terms of just the whole entire act. Barbara said that during Reconstruction, when you think about the withdrawal of the federal troops, when you think about removing protections out of the South from the Tilden-Hayes Compromise, and the fact that Negro colored troops who represented the federal government, they represented the force of federal law, they represented, if you will, the Department of Justice post-slavery in the South. When those forces were withdrawn, when African Americans were no longer holding the slave master and former Confederates at gunpoint, the Night Riders, the Ku Klux Klan, lynching came in as a voting. So when we hear Donald Trump talking about ending same-day registration, ending absentee voting, it's just the same pattern, but it's a different day, it's a different time. But, the rise of Black violence is also real. When I think about it, Black people had nothing to do with what took place in Utah. So why were his historically black colleges and universities being asked to lock down? Why were they receiving bomb threats? Why was this happening?
Well, I think maybe one thing we haven't touched on is the fact that there was some anonymity between some black college professors and certain segments of this would-be movement, and so that angst, I think, got projected on those campuses, and additionally, because this horrific, horrendous incident that certainly no one who has a heart, no one who loves God could approve of, that happening in that form of manner. It's fine to debate. It's fine to say sticks and stones will break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's okay. But we can't condone that, just like as we were talking about with the lynching, we can't condone that. But for this to happen on a college campus, I think the other, side of that was to reach out, to express that kind of anger towards HBCUs.
That's tragic. It's a big leap for me to get from what happened in Utah to the schools that your children attend, the school that my son attends, locking down campuses. But black folks had nothing to do with what went on in Utah.
Right.
And so Reverend John Howard Wesley, Freddie Haynes, Reverend Freddie Haynes, Reverend Jamal Bryant, these prophetic voices at this hour absolutely matter. I want to go to the Voting Rights Act of 1965 in these last couple of minutes, because I think we heard impassioned pleas, Gina, from Congressman Cleo Fields, who represents the 6th Congressional District of Louisiana, and Emmanuel Cleaver, who represents the 5th of Missouri.
Yeah. Much as we heard fight, 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 we do have to also fight. I think that it was so refreshing to hear Congressman Cleaver give the battle charge. I thought I was about to get up and run around Jericho a few times. And I appreciate that. We need that right now. And people want to know, what can I do in my space? And it is that whatever it is that you can do, you got to do it. And sometimes we can't wait for people to tell us what to do. We must seek out what it is that we need to do. But I also think about earlier in the week as well, as Atiba was on with his conversation with Black cardiologists in this moment, because the level of stress that is not only permeating, Black and brown people in this country. This is a lot of stress for everybody. There are people who don't like this. Remember that everybody that looks like somebody else does not feel the way, does not think the way that someone else thinks. And so, just like we talked about in this moment, Ernest Krim said, can you name some white leaders who were in the civil rights movement? And I know that we're going to have to, I really want to continue that conversation, because there was Goodman and Cheney and Viola. There have been people, John Brown, throughout history, who have wanted to be on the side of right.
And Rabbi Abraham Heschel stood with Dr. King.
Absolutely.
So I think that we have to give credit and acknowledge that Dr. King had coalition on his mind. There's some of us who did not have coalitions on our mind. Gina, I don't know how much time we have left, but maybe a final word of hope.
At the end of at least this hour.
I'm Jesse Jackson Jr. You've been listening to the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. This is Reflectivity with Gina Towns on Fat Meat Fridays, our weekly series. She's the creator of the Jesse Jackson Jr. Show. Gina, until next time.
I will see you in the next hour
on KBLA Talk 1580 when we come forward.